Secret shadow war, years in the making. Missiles, cyber attacks, proxy battles, and sudden airstrikes. But now, it's no longer in the shadows. Israel and Iran are locked in open confrontation. And the United States? It's already involved, far deeper than most realize. What you're about to watch is not just a story about two countries at odds, it's a layered tale of power, survival, alliances, and a dangerous game of chess that's spilling into real-world chaos. This is the untold story of how a regional conflict between Israel and Iran has escalated into a near-global crisis, and how America, knowingly or not, is being dragged into a war it might not be able to walk away from. For decades, Israel and Iran have hated each other, publicly, aggressively, and at times, violently. But this isn't just some age-old rivalry. This is nuclear ambition versus national survival. Ideological extremism versus military dominance. And now, after years of warnings, things have hit a boiling point. Military strikes are happening in daylight. Proxy militias are attacking across borders. Commercial shipping routes are being weaponized. So why is America involved? And how deep does this go? To understand the current war, we need to rewind. Before 1979, Israel and Iran were, surprisingly, allies. Iran under the Shah maintained a close relationship with Israel, primarily because both viewed the rise of Arab nationalism as a threat. But everything changed with the Islamic Revolution. The new regime in Tehran, under Ayatollah Khomeini, saw Israel as an illegitimate occupier of Muslim lands. The Zionist entity, as they called it, became a central villain in Iran's political and religious narrative. From that moment, hostility wasn't just political, it was existential. Iran began supporting militant groups like Hezbollah in Lebanon and later Hamas in Gaza. Israel responded with covert operations, assassinations of Iranian nuclear scientists, and devastating airstrikes in Syria to weaken Iran's proxy network. But this wasn't yet a full-scale war. It was a Cold War, fought through proxies and sabotage. The Israel-Iran conflict played out in places like Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, and the waters of the Persian Gulf. Iranian weapons were intercepted on their way to Hezbollah. Israeli jets bombed Iranian convoys near Damascus. Iranian hackers targeted Israeli infrastructure. Israeli cyber weapons like the infamous Stuxnet virus were unleashed to cripple Iran's nuclear progress. Each move was answered with another. It was a tit-for-tat game, but one always kept just under the threshold of outright war. But something changed. In 2023, the number of direct attacks began to surge. Israel struck deeper into Iranian territory. Iran's IRGC responded more openly. Hezbollah threatened full-scale retaliation. The unspoken rules of engagement? Dawn and America? It had no choice but to take notice. To the casual observer, America's connection to Israel is about mutual support, military aid, and diplomacy. But it's so much more than that. Since the early 2000s, the U.S. has had a clear stance: Iran must not acquire nuclear weapons. That policy has led to crippling sanctions, covert operations, and even targeted assassinations, like the killing of General Qasem Soleimani in 2020. That assassination was a turning point. Iran vowed revenge, and its proxies intensified their efforts. U.S. bases in Iraq and Syria were hit by rocket fire. Drones targeted American troops. Yet the broader public narrative in the U.S. stayed quiet. What most people don't realize is that American troops have already been engaged in retaliatory actions, quietly, underreported, but deadly. Now, with the Israel-Iran conflict turning hot, U.S. involvement is no longer deniable. Warships have been deployed to the Mediterranean. Bases in the Gulf have been reinforced. U.S. officials shuttle between Jerusalem and Riyadh, trying to contain the fallout. But the question is, can they? Quiet morning, an Israeli missile struck a target deep in Iranian territory, a weapons research facility just outside Isfahan. Iran claimed civilian casualties. Israel insisted it was a nuclear-linked site. Iran's response was unprecedented. Instead of using proxies, Tehran launched dozens of missiles and drones at Israeli military sites. Some were intercepted. Some hit. Tel Aviv went on high alert. Cities braced for fallout. The Israeli Defense Forces responded with direct airstrikes into Iran, hitting suspected missile factories and IRGC bases. The war was no longer through proxies. It was out in the open, and the U.S.? Its naval vessels in the Gulf intercepted Iranian drones. American fighter jets assisted in defending Israeli airspace. That's when America officially crossed the line from supporter to participant. The ripple effects were immediate and global. Hezbollah launched barrages into northern Israel. The Houthis in Yemen targeted shipping lanes and U.S. Navy ships. Iraq and Syria saw renewed militia attacks on American bases. Jordan and Saudi Arabia entered emergency mode. Global oil markets reacted violently. Prices spiked. Shipping through the Strait of Hormuz, a vital route for global oil, slowed dramatically. Insurance costs for vessels skyrocketed. Europe, heavily reliant on Middle Eastern oil, scrambled for alternatives. China, with major investments in Iran, walked a diplomatic tightrope. Russia, already at odds with the West, secretly supported Iran's position, hoping to weaken U.S. influence. The entire region was being sucked into the conflict, and every major power had something to lose. But the most terrifying part of this story isn't the missiles or the militias, it's the nuclear question. Israel has never confirmed or denied possessing nuclear weapons, but it's widely believed to have a sizable arsenal. Iran, for years, insisted its nuclear program was peaceful. But intelligence reports, leaked cables, and on-the-ground evidence suggested otherwise. The fear now is that if Iran is pushed too far, or if it feels it has nothing left to lose, it may go all in. Fast-tracking a bomb, Israel has promised it won't allow that to happen. That sets up a doomsday scenario. A cornered Iran, a nuclear-armed Israel, and a United States caught in the middle. One wrong move, one miscalculation, could turn a regional war into a global catastrophe. Right now, diplomats are scrambling. Phone lines between Washington, Tel Aviv, Riyadh, and even Beijing are burning. But while the leaders talk, the battles rage on. Civilians are dying. Cities are under siege. And the war is creeping into places far from the Middle East. Cyber attacks have hit European infrastructure. U.S. airports briefly shut down over unexplained tech failures. Israeli embassies around the world are under threat. The battlefield has no borders anymore, and perhaps the most chilling realization: the fuse may have already been lit, and no one knows how long it is. Here's what they're not telling you: this war wasn't sudden. It was decades in the making. A perfect storm of religious ideology, geopolitical interests, and superpower rivalry. And now, it's no longer a conflict between two nations. It's a test of global stability. America didn't just get pulled in, it was always part of the equation. And whether by intention or by alliance, it's now on the front lines of a war that could redefine the future of global order. As the missiles fly and the alliances tighten, one question remains: can this be contained? Or are we already witnessing the opening act of something far more devastating? Only time, and perhaps history, will tell. Subscribe, like, and share for more updates on the ongoing war. Watch the next video to understand what's fueling the Middle East's proxy wars.